So let's get into the meat of what this panel is about, which is getting an idea or a concept or some spark of something and getting that from concept all the way through to series. And I thought we would take it step by step. So if we could start with what makes a great reality show? I'd love to hear each of you kind of just say, you know, what you think a great reality show is, if that's definable.
Maybe it's totally definable. Ratings.
What?
Big ratings make a great show. That's pretty well it. And anything you look up that's rated huge through the roof, you can point at it and say, oh, it's a great show. But if it didn't rate, would you be saying, oh, that's a great show? It's sort of the taste of the general public and the magic Nielsen system that no one understands. That sort of sets reality shows. And whether you look at Duck Dynasty, which is very sort of strangely produced and different, but it rates through the roof, so everybody's into that, or even when on John and Kate Plus 8, where it's like, yeah, it's a huge hit, but is it a great show? It's like, it must be. People like it. And at this point, the industry sort of dictates that. If your show rates and stays on the air, from my perspective, I say that's great, because the public, no one knows how to predict what they're going to do.
Right. Any other thoughts on that?
I think ratings are hugely important. I agree with that 100%. I also think really great storytelling needs to go with that as much as possible. I mean, characters are always going to be important. We got to have characters, whether they're in follow docs or competitions or even game shows. I mean, we got to have those characters, and storytelling, in my mind, reigns supreme in that.
Chris, you and I were talking the other day about how your career covers features and television and scripted and reality. And I said mine kind of does that as well, and I try to be a moving target, so I come out of fear and paranoia. But you were saying, really, it matters. You say better than I that where a story goes is the best place for it, and you can probably say something better than I did just now.
That was pretty good. I don't, I feel a little bit like the outsider because I don't do the reality for a living, and I'm grateful to be included in this. Our show, The Chair, I would say then must be an awful show because not a soul's watched it. But we were proud of it, and I did one similar with some similarities in Project Greenlight before, and I think that I think in all businesses, movie business, all the ones you're talking about, the hardest thing is sometimes, and I would say the point you're bringing out, just to answer, is we as the producers or the people building it have to be a tiny bit ahead. It's not just following something that works. Somebody came up with that idea first. Somebody put the cameras in the real world. That's Somebody right. did, that kind of stuff. And I think that part of it is having some ability to read what the audience or what people are experiencing. And I think your point about good is people want to see something good. The world's tough right now, so that's a good read of what that is. What I was talking about was just that I agree with Craig that all of it's storytelling. At the end of the day, it's characters. And the truth of the matter is the average audience doesn't really understand whether it's well-produced or poorly produced or right. looks good or does. If they fall in love with the characters, they're intrigued by the setting. So most of our jobs, I guess I would say, and then for just to answer the question in the way you asked me, which is across all of those mediums for me, is just do I like these people? Do I want to see this? Do I relate to this story? Is this a story? And then the second question, I think, for producers is what is the best medium to tell it, right? So scripting a story about guys making their first movie, we thought that would kind of suck. Shooting a real guy out getting to make his first movie was interesting. That became Project Greenlight. And, in the same thing, we could have done probably a successful reality show about 4 guys in high school trying to lose their virginity before they graduate from high school, but we thought that might be a really hard reality show to go get. So we scripted it and made a movie called American Pie. So I think that some of it is sitting back and saying, what is the best way to tell this story? And I think it's the hardest thing as a producer because honestly, some shit should stay books, some shit should stay plays, some shit doesn't need to be turned into all this other stuff. But I think that's the hardest thing. Is to sit
the thing
back
is like 5-6 years ago, all of us up here would say, and Brent would say like, yeah, I have a show that I'm really proud of that was amazing, that I think was a great show, but it didn't rate. But now we have 20 of those shows because that's the reality we live in, is that we put out great shows that don't rate. So, I mean, I'm at the point now where it's like that sort of frustration has led me to think like, you know what, I'm not in the business of making great shows by my perspective. I'm in the business to sell shows, get them to rate, make money, build a company. That's what this business is. And sort of, I would love everything that I thought was great or that is great. I mean, I have shows that did not rate that I truly think that this is an amazing show. I can't believe it. I'm so proud of it. The network's happy, everybody's happy, and then it doesn't hit a number and it doesn't grow, and they put it on week after week and they try it on different nights and it just never catches, and you're like, ugh. And if it was the only one, or if we only had a couple of those, it'd be great. But it is now part of the business.
It's a volume business too.
I think Chris nailed it on the head. I think we have to reinvent. You know, if you go back to when unscripted came about, it was when coming out of the writer's strike, and if you look at what people are watching right now, it's premium, high end scripted television, and they had a great answer to our reality business really growing quickly, and I think it's up to us now to think ahead. I mean, if we had pitched a few years ago giving these guys these cameras and then saying sayonara to them, the network wouldn't have bought it. So I think we have to kind of hit this bottom for what cable's going through in order to really take some risk again.
All right, great.